Recognizing a quorum of commissioners, I call the October 15th, 2025 meeting of the Cannabis Control Commission to order. This meeting is being held hybrid pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025 and is being recorded. Commissioner Stebbins, Roy, and myself are participating in today's meeting. All votes taken today will be by roll call. We have a full agenda today that I will generally summarize. We will start with opening comments from commissioners. Then we proceed to staff license recommendations. There are 50 license renewal recommendations and 2 provisional license recommendations. There are 5 items in the commission discussion and vote section today. The 8th annual activities report, general matters, legal billing, red tape removal discussion and committee formation, intervention, protocol discussion, and standing delegation. In disproportionately impacted areas maps for social equity, the adoption of the UMDI report from March of 2021. The commission may transition to executive session if needed. I will ask commissioners wishing to comment or ask questions during any part of the meeting, raise their hand to be recognized. With those initial comments, I'll turn things over to commissioners for any comments or updates. I will go in alphabetical order and I will give my comments last. I will ask Commissioner Roy to begin and let Commissioner Stebbins go next.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you everyone, and thank you for calling today's meeting. This was an additional meeting, but we're going to entertain approving 52 license renewals today that would have waited till the middle of November. So this is business getting done in a timely fashion. So I'm grateful to that. Really no opening comments except for on the agenda today. There are 2 areas of high interest that I've received feedback from: the red tape removal discussion and possible formation of a committee. In the disproportionately impacted areas map that dates back to 2021. Both of these, I've heard from stakeholders, will do a lot to help the industry move forward, expand opportunities. We're trying to expand opportunities, including this map. So I was grateful to hear from external stakeholders and looking forward to discussing and voting on these matters today. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Commissioner Roy. Commissioner Stebbins.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of quick updates. Had the opportunity to visit with the Cambridge City Manager last week with our Deputy General Counsel, Mike Baker. We talked about draft social consumption regs and interest of the city. They suggested perhaps some follow-up with an assistant city manager for planning and economic development. So we'll be curious to see what steps we can take next with Cambridge. And on Saturday, I stopped into the grand opening of Bountiful Farms, new dispensary in Framingham. Great chance to meet their staff and also connect with some of the product ambassadors and representatives who are on hand. So thanks to Bountiful Farms for allowing me to join their festivities and some of the great informative conversations that we had.
Thank you. I just want to, again, I just like to get straight to business, but I want to thank Attorney Mike Baker and Commissioner Roy joining me at Diaspora with Raisa. That's what I'm saying. Raisa.
Yeah, that's right. Phonetically spelling. We weren't passing notes.
Pronouncing it, yes. We're just trying to make sure that I say it right. I am thrilled that we had an opportunity. I think that we actually had some great conversations yesterday that gave us food for thought. We now have a little bit more time before we're going to be putting social consumption on the agenda. And I'm thrilled that we had the extra time to have that conversation with her, because she gave us, I think, some very interesting food for thought about how we can do an even better job improving access to capital for social equity applicants and how we can make the social consumption regulations function better as a whole for this new license class. So I'm thrilled that we had the time, and I'm thrilled that my fellow commissioners are working with me on this compacted timeline for myself to get the job done. So anyway, we are,
if I may, we were just there yesterday. I also want to thank Racia for taking the time out of her day. This is all conceptual to us. This license type doesn't exist yet. And although different in the fact that, it's a private club and folks bring their own product, she's been literally walking the walk and talking the talk on these events. And it was so great to be able to pick her brain on this. And she did to us, and we really had a robust exchange of ideas. And, you know, when we get to our meeting next week around social consumption, we'll be able to share them then. But again, I want to, you know, and thank you for bringing that up, Madam Chair, and thank you, Attorney Baker, for joining us. It was an incredible visit, and very grateful to her for spending time with us.
Thank you. And with that, we will take the staff recommendations on license renewal. We will be doing that with licensing manager Christine Moriarty. So why don't we start with the, I hadn't seen this before, so I haven't seen the conditions. But anyway, I have been made aware that there are 3 different renewal licenses that Commissioner Stebbins is offering conditions for. Number 3 on our list, ACK Natural, and Dream Fields of Massachusetts 1, and Silver Therapeutics of Palmer. So Commissioner Stebbins, why don't we start with ACK Natural and propose your condition? Again, I haven't seen this before, so why don't you read that out for us now?
Sure. My proposed condition is on the renewal for ACK Natural LLC, MRR 207272. My proposed condition is within 30 business days of approval of application for renewal, contact the CCC licensing division and provide a response on whether licensee would consider potential changes toward the licensee's positive impact plan in accordance with 935 CMR 500-103-4B. For a little bit of context, ACK Natural is located on Nantucket, which we know
Only the cool people say
which we know is not a DI community, and they point that out. Part of their positive impact plan, nicely shares a lot of the things that they try to do to help the local community. I'm not sure that would be an accurate reflection of what we look for in a positive impact plan. They've tried some other strategies off island, if we can call it that, that has been met with, varying degrees of success. So just want to offer them the opportunity, if they want to consider changing their plan up, we'd be welcome to that. And again, not to cast any dispersions on what they do on the island, that's great, but trying to argue that it fits their positive impact plan, I guess I would have some questions about it.
Commissioner Roy, because I'm hearing a lot of maybe, and what is the weakness in their positive impact plan, again, being literally an island?
From my reading of it, they acknowledge they're not a DI community, and because they're an island, they're not close to one. And they talk about the other wonderful things that they do in the community in Nantucket, and we certainly encourage that to continue. It's been how they have tried to undertake some activities off island that might impact DI communities, and I think they kind of point to the fact that some of those things have not been successful, or they've tried to change them up. Just looking to see if they want to consider making other changes. We're really not compelling them to, but just kind of asking the question.
Commissioner Roy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Stebbins, through the chair. Positive impact plans are designed to positively impact communities that have been designated disproportionately impact areas.
Mm-hmm.
And we have 30 that are recognized. And part of the discussion today, and I don't want to jump ahead, but it's relevant to the condition, would be expanding opportunities based on data that was collected by a diverse lens, a diverse research team. And that would also add Truro and Oak Bluffs, which are geographically much closer to the Nantucket,
yep,
to be able to positively impact, because what you just said is they're not near any, so they can't positively impact one because of commission chosen communities based on a recommendation from the first study. So now we have another recommendation on the Donahue, so we're going to get to that. So I don't want to steal that thunder, but it's relevant because if that map was accepted, they would now have Oak Bluffs and Truro, which is relatively in their backyard,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to impact. So I want to just put a pin in that, to think of that in your condition,
yep,
and when we discuss the map, to apply it then. Thank you.
So if you can clarify, so this is what I also am not, again, I'm still getting reappointed. So are they making attempts to abide by the positive impact plan? Are they, I mean, we had one that we discussed last week where we weren't
Right.
getting any response. And they were both EEAs, so it was kind of like ironic that we were going after EEA licenses for not responding on their positive impact plan. So, and I've heard you leaving wiggle room. What are we suggesting to them? Is it just an open suggestion or is it an actual, you better do this?
For
that
me,
I'm not sure we can enforce.
for me, I think within, our legal guidelines, I've always put these forward as consider and report back. Right now, the one project that they highlight that they are doing in a DI community are some educational sessions in New Bedford, I believe. But they're not getting any attendance. So it's like, you may want to consider changing up your strategy if you're trying to do something and it's not working. I think we've always encouraged licensees to pivot if they saw something wasn't working. So just what I'm looking for, what I would expect them to respond to the licensing division is just say, acknowledging, and I think we would agree that helping the island in Nantucket doesn't necessarily fit within compliance with a positive impact plan, but giving them the opportunity to change up and find something new, whether that's potentially in a new community, or if they see something's not working, pivot a little bit, come up with a new strategy. And that's what we're looking for without kind of compelling them to do something.
But what I'm saying is, it sounds like they're trying to, and if they try, do they meet our?
I think for us, they're meeting the bare requirements. I'm just wondering, and again, that's why I'm not saying you have to do this, but it's like, if you're telling us you're not getting any results, then consider a different strategy.
Okay. So I'm just saying, it sounds like a suggestion as opposed to
A condition.
a condition.
The only condition be that they report back to us.
Do you have any other questions, Commissioner Roy?
To General Counsel through the chair, what is the definition of a condition? Or what legal teeth does it hold?
Well, if you're asking the broader question, we can look up a dictionary definition of condition, but so.
No. And with all due respect, no, I'm asking how it applies here. So my understanding of a condition is something a commissioner places on a license, which can affect its future status if a condition is not satisfied and met. So by it being a condition, that could jeopardize, like last week's, we had 2 EEAs that could have been in jeopardy if we decided the death penalty versus the misdemeanor type of thing. So I'm wondering if this is more of a recommendation than a condition that can be placed on a licensee that if it's not met or satisfied could jeopardize future renewal.
Yeah, I mean, to clarify from the last meeting, the posture of those cases was that they weren't up for renewal. They were just at the time where they were past the time of complying with the condition that Commissioner Stebbins had placed on them. So they weren't ripe for a vote on renewal. As to your, I think, more pointed question here today, we talked about this at the last meeting as well. The regulations call for, the death penalty, if you will, the revocation for not following through on positive impact plans. There's nothing short of that is, discussed in the regulations. So I would say to your question, this would be more along the lines of a recommendation more than anything.
Than a condition. Thank you.
But has he answered the question about what a condition is? Short of
I think I answered it where it is something placed on a licensee on a license with a required or expected action that could impact future renewal in front of this board or future. So that's what I was trying to, I think I sussed it out for us. Again, I agree with General Counsel. I think it's more of a recommendation than a condition.
Right. So, having had that robust conversation about a condition, I will I'll entertain a motion to approve the license renewal of Act Naturals with the recommendation of Commissioner Stebbins.
So moved.
Will you second that?
Second.
Moved and seconded. I'll take a call of the roll. Chair votes aye. Commissioner Roy?
Aye.
Commissioner Stebbins?
Aye.
It is renewed, Act Naturals. Then we're going to Dreamfields, Massachusetts 1. Commissioner Stebbins?
Thank you, Chair. My proposed condition on this license is within 30 business days of approval of application for renewal, contact the CCC Licensing Division and provide response and update on progress for licensee's positive impact plan in accordance with 935 CMR 500-1034B. Just for context, this licensee in the area where we asked them for progress on their positive impact plan essentially gave us information about their diversity plan. So we're just asking them to provide us the right information, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, licensing had also asked for the same information.
And did they not respond?
I don't believe that they responded, but let me just go back and take a look.
I might address Director Moriarty. Do you want to chime in? Oh, manager, sorry.
I appreciate
I love the promotion. If we had more money, it'd be great.
it. Does not look like they've responded to our RFI regarding that question.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Do you have any questions?
No.
Okay. Commissioner Stebbins, I'll seek a motion to approve the license renewal of Dreamfields, Massachusetts, with the condition set forth.
So moved.
Commissioner Rowe, will you second that?
Second.
Having been moved and seconded, I will take a call of the roll. Chair votes aye. Commissioner Stebbins?
Aye.
Commissioner Roy?
Aye.
It is passed unanimously. And now we move to number 32, Silver Therapeutics of Palmer.
Or again, proposed condition on this license renewal is as follows. Within 30 business days of approval of application for renewal, please respond and report to confirm accuracy of information provided under their diversity plan progress in accordance with 935 CMR 500-1034B. Again, in this context, the concern both from licensing and myself that what they provided as a response or update on their progress on their diversity plan may be the same document that they used last year, and we're just wondering if that's still accurate.
Okay, are there any questions or comments? Commissioner Stebbins, Commissioner Roy?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Commissioner Stebbins, so licensing also reached out to them and they were non-responsive?
They have the same concern that I have, that the information is not updated.
Manager Moriarty, yes.
That is correct.
Yeah, so a non-response. Okay.
Can I just clarify? That's not what I thought I heard. I thought that what they did was they just resent their original plan.
It does appear that they resubmitted documentation from last year where you think that there have been updates that we would like clarification on.
Commissioner Roy?
Thank you, Chair. Did we submit a request for more information about that? Like that, we think it's the same document?
I would have to go back and look. I'm not sure.
Okay.
For personal information, do we care if it's the same plan that they submitted a year before, that's what is it that they're not meeting the goals, which we've already had a conversation about enforcement and whether it's what we do in terms of enforcement, but is it just that they have just sent us something they gave us last year? Just if you could, Gazan, I'm still trying to get back.
It depends on what their goals are really, and the due diligence that the licensing staff does in terms of the goals and what the licensee has reported back to us.
Okay, thank you. Right, any other questions or comments? Commissioner Roy?
So based on that question, Madam Chair, so what you're saying is if they submitted the same thing, maybe it's working for them, maybe they're sticking to the same plan? Is that what you're?
Well, that's what I'm saying is that if they had the previous conversation was you have a plan. It sounds like you've been diligently trying to live up to the plan.
Yeah.
And now we want you to change your plan because people aren't responding to what it is you're doing. And again, we will I actually am excited because I think about the very short ferry ride it is between Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket rather than New Bedford, although I think there's a ferry there too, but that we may be addressing some of the issues for them.
The
making it-
inequities there, yeah.
Yeah, right. So, but I'm trying to figure out, they're kind of two different components. One is you have a plan and you are trying to live up to it. The other is we don't like your plan and we want you to change it. Commissioner
Commissioner Stebbins, actually.
Commissioner Stebbins, right?
Thank you, Chair. And by the way, there is a high-speed ferry from New Bedford up in the islands. I think what I was like, this wasn't necessarily changing up their plan. It was whether the progress that they're required to demonstrate, whether they were just using last year's data or whether they had new information to report. So it wasn't a change of their diversity plan. It's, did you give us the right progress information?
All right. All right. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, hearing none. Commissioner Stebbins, I'll entertain a motion to approve the license renewal of Silver Therapeutics with the condition as you have stated.
So moved.
Commissioner Roy, will you second that motion?
Second.
Having been moved and seconded, I'll take a call of the roll. Chair O'Brien votes aye. Commissioner Stebbins?
Aye.
Commissioner Roy?
Aye.
It is unanimously approved. And now we will take these all as a group. Manager Moriarty, do you have any comments or questions, or can we move right to that? Okay, great. So we will take the staff recommendations on license renewals for all of the licenses listed 1 through 50, except for 3, 9, and 32, which we have already approved. Commissioner Roy, do I hear a motion to approve these licenses?
So moved.
Commissioner Stebbins, do I hear a second?
Second.
Having been moved and seconded, all of those licenses are approved. Now we are moving on to staff recommendations on provisional licenses, and I will turn to licensing manager Christine Moriarty to provide us information. The first is Mass Kansas.
Can we have the next slide, please? Thank you. The applicant here is Mass Kansas LLC. The proposed location is 88 Huntoon Memorial Parkway, Unit B, located in Leicester. They are seeking a micro-business license, and the applicant received expedited review. Commission staff has reviewed the application for compliance with applicable laws and regulations and are presenting it for the commission's review and vote.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from my fellow commissioners about this licensee, Mass Kansas? Hearing none, Commissioner Roy, I will entertain a motion to accept the staff recommendation on provisional license for Mass Kansas.
So moved. If I may just actually provide a comment. I'm happy to see a micro business because there was a while we weren't really seeing them, and actually we were seeing them wind down because of the onerous regulations around not being able to scale your business. So I think folks are seeing there's some viability here and economic feasibility in this model. And so I want to thank Commissioner Stebbins, who worked with me on this to move this license type forward. So thank you.
That's great. Any comments, Commissioner Stebbins, or questions?
Also.
Okay, I will entertain, Commissioner Stebbins, I'll entertain a motion to approve the, oh, I already, did you move it yet?
I did. So
You
moved.
did, you moved, will you second that motion, Commissioner
I
Stebbins?
will second.
Having been moved and seconded, I'll call the roll. Chair votes aye. Commissioner Roy?
Aye.
Commissioner Stebbins?
Aye.
It is passed unanimously. Moving on to Equalitree.
The applicant here is Equalitree LLC. The proposed location is 12 Baltic Lane, located in Fitchburg. They are seeking a product manufacturer license. The applicant received expedited review. Commission staff has reviewed Commission staff has reviewed the application for compliance with applicable laws and regulations and are presenting it for the commission's review and vote.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments about this particular Commissioner Stebbins?
Just to point out that the applicant is not only SEP, but a WB as well.
Awesome. Any questions? Nope, hearing none. I will entertain a motion, Commissioner Stebbins, to approve the staff recommendation on provisional license for Equalitree LLC.
So moved.
Commissioner Roy,
Second.
having been moved and seconded, I will call the roll. Chair votes aye. Commissioner Roy,
Aye.
Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
It is passed unanimously. Now we will move to commission discussion and votes. And the first item will be Matt Giancola, and it will be the annual activities report. But I don't know how much more you have to do. Director, because I think we did it and then the lights went dark. So we are now just finishing it. But why don't you just, for the audience, maybe people didn't get to attend or follow the meeting last week. Could you just give us a very high level description of what we're voting on today?
Sure thing. Thank you very much, Chair, and good afternoon, Commissioners. Yeah, so before you is the 8th Annual Activities Report. It generally summarizes major commission activities from FY 2025 or July 2024 through June 2025. One thing to note, though, from last week's packet to this week's is that we did make an update to Commissioner Roy's term. She did start in July 2021, so that should be reflected in your current packet and will be the one that is submitted to the appointing authorities as well as the legislature. One thing I do also want to point out for folks that have looked at past reports is every year we're trying to iterate a little bit more and make these reports more readable, more graphics, more charts, more statistics and information that we think the general public and our major stakeholders will find interesting and helpful. So we really hope this is a document that can be useful to our team and stakeholders, and we can use it throughout the year going forward. So with that, I'll turn it back to the commission.
Thank you, Director. Commissioner Roy.
And thank you, Director Giancola, and your team who put this together. Very professional looking and thorough report, and having testified with the ED, and our partners do look to these reports for information, so they can be a helpful tool. So I'm sure it took a lot of work and effort and energy to produce this, so I just want to thank everybody involved.
Commissioner Stebbins, do you have any comments or questions?
Same. I mean, I've read a lot of corporate annual reports, and this kind of measures right up in terms of professionality and appearance and format. So nice job.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Giancola. So hearing no further comments and questions, I will entertain a motion, Commissioner Stebbins, to approve the 8th Annual Activities Report.
So moved.
Commissioner Roy, will you second that motion?
Second.
Having been moved and seconded, I will take a call of the roll. Chair votes aye. Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. Great work.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. And I'm going to take some of these things out of order. The next thing that we are going to go to is the red tape removal discussion and committee formation. And Commissioner Roy will be leading some of this discussion on here. And I think that the General Counsel and our Executive Director have given us some good feedback on some of the items that fall under this. But Commissioner Roy, would you like to
Sure.
talk about this?
Yeah, and thank you, Madam Chair. And, the concept came to me, not my own, but just after having done so many roundtables, meeting with so many stakeholders. I mean, this is a highly regulated, highly taxed, very, very challenging environment. And we kind of touched on it last time. We didn't want to get too deep in it because it wasn't posted, but, we're looking at regulations now, and it's time to evaluate the utility on some of these and to see if there still is utility. And if there isn't, then perhaps sunsetting or relaxing or revising some of these regulations that really no longer make sense as they did some years ago. And so I know badging, Commissioner Stebbins is taking the lead on how can we make simplified badging so it makes sense. And, we mentioned RVT, and, we all agree, with all respect to our RVT vendors, we all agree it needs a little freshening up, if you will. And so, and it's quite the requirement every year, and it's not portable. And in reading the original intent from Chair Hoffman, and it kind of went, the minutes weren't, I guess the original intent was biennial and make it portable. And then the minutes weren't really transposed accurately, and something got missed in translation, and they ended up with every year not portable. So does that really make sense anymore? And it's, a little stale, and we're talking about now social consumption RVT. We have advanced core curriculum. So this is an example of how the Red Tape Removal Committee can start to look at regulations that are literally red tape that don't make sense. So I was really excited that you were receptive to the idea, and I think Commissioner Stebbins, I want to speak for you, but I think you were too. And so what we're proposing today is some motion language to vote on, I guess, the creation of it. I don't even know if we need a vote. That's up to you, Madam Chair, but we do have some draft motion language. I had the opportunity to meet with the executive director this morning, and we talked about having it combined with internal folks here as well as external folks, so we can hear directly from licensees and stakeholders alike. So we have tentative lists of folks we'd like to see on the committee. And, you know, so I'm excited to really to get to it. And we got rid of the, what is it, the 72-hour rule, right? That was red tape that didn't need to be red tape anymore. So this is examples of things, how we move the industry forward and not jeopardize public health and safety and welfare.
Do we need to take a vote on this? I just want to, can you clarify, General Counsel, do we need to take a vote on the formation of this committee that will be reviewing? Is this something formal, or can we just say we're doing it? Can you explain whether or not we have to have a vote here?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's really a matter of, for your discretion. Clearly, if you do vote on it, it carries a certain weight. And you know, I think lends itself to some more gravitas than if you go the non-vote route. So I don't think there's a requirement that you vote on it, but I think it's better practice, and just in terms of
Because I haven't seen the motion.
Well, why don't I read it? It's just draft. I'm just reading it
Yeah.
now, like real
And
time.
This is also, I know that, you know, we talked about this, and I know that everyone is stressed, but it's always helpful to get this language. I mean, as a matter of fact, Commissioner Roy on the fly last week was able to fix one of the motions. And it's hard to do this in real time. So just making sure we get this with a little bit of advance before doing this live, because it's not as easy. Executive Director Hearn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And the motion obviously was drafted based on the discussion Commissioner Roy had earlier today. And I had earlier today. So I think part of this too, whether it's a decision to vote to create it or not, is really what I'm looking for most likely is direction, right? So where we are talking about, and if that's the will of the board, involving external parties, for example, we have done that recently in the working group structure that we have. And we've talked about it as well as we move forward with social consumption working groups. In that instance, if we're involving external parties from the organization, it's helpful that we go through, make sure that they understand state ethics, those types of things, which we can assist them with. And so in that instance where we're engaging external stakeholders who are going to be making recommendations, and we may want to ensure that they understand our processes, it might make sense to have a vote. So that's just one thought as it relates specifically to the question of involving external stakeholders.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins?
Sure, thank you, Chair. Commissioner, did you want to read the motion?
Oh,
first?
Yeah, I can read it and then we can decide if
Yeah.
we think it's appropriate as a board. So this is, I haven't really read the whole thing, so it's real time for me too. But I want to thank, it looks like our general counsel, our DGC, our Director of Government Affairs, and our ED kind of worked collectively. So thank you all. So I'll read it. Move to create a red tape removal committee.
can I just interrupt you? Is there any way, where do I?
Oh, I'll put it in the chat. Yep, let me, okay. So we'll put it in the chat. I'll wait for you to,
I'm gonna figure it
so
out.
you can read along. The bulk.
Yeah, right here. right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Right, so you're gonna put that up? And then when we put this stuff in chat, this is all a public record that is, if anybody filed a public records request, they could see this, yes? Okay. Go ahead, Commissioner.
We're good?
Yeah, but I'm seeing it up here. It just, I'm just happy I found where it could be.
Oh, wait.
And as well, just from a public perspective, we would also have, if I can get into the chat without, if somebody could start the chat, that would be helpful.
Well, if you just go into the board of the live
Yep.
meeting and put it in that.
Do that.
Anybody might be able to help you with that?
Yeah, I
I
can.
got it right
There
here.
you go.
Okay.
You Commissioner.
I just saw Paul Clark say hi. So he's-
It's an
And just to clarify as well, I sent this, and it has not yet been edited by.
Yes, this is
Judy, so
real-time
I can
editing.
assist.
Yes, so we might have to do real, that's okay, we can edit live, it's okay. Move to create a red tape removal committee comprised of both internal commission members and external stakeholders that will review regulations for potential streamlining and report back to the commission as a whole by June 30th, 2026. The committee will include the chair and Commissioner Roy as delegates, further to direct the executive director to assign at a minimum staff representatives from I&E, including licensing, legal, equity programming, community outreach, and government affairs and policy. There's also a footnote about adding members from constituent services. So I could add, so let me restate, staff representatives from I&E, including licensing, legal, equity programming, and community outreach, constituent services, and government affairs and policy. Further to direct the executive director working with GAP to identify and include representatives from the industry for retail, cultivation, manufacturing, ITLs, as well as representatives from the Mass Cannabis Business Association and the Massachusetts Cannabis Coalition.
And the only additional language I would suggest there is I would like to work in partnership with the executive director to determine.
Identify the individual.
Identify who the internal staff will be.
Okay.
So to direct the executive director in partnership or further direct the executive director and the chair to assign at a minimum. So the executive director and chair, I don't know what language that looks like, but I'd like you and I to have some, I'd like to have some input on who the staff will be. So I don't know what that language looks like.
To direct the executive director in consultation with the chair to assign.
Perfect. I think that.
Can we make those edits in the, to memorialize? Thank you.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, a great job.
The other suggestion I had in here as well is that if the board is in favor as a whole of creating this, that it might be good to assign somebody to okay the external stakeholders. So I'd suggest potentially the chair. That was another
Yeah,
thought.
yes, that's perfect.
That's really
Yeah,
good.
Thank you.
And we just want to add constituent services into. Okay, would you like me to reread it?
He's just back as drafted. Thank you.
Okay. So the motion reads as follows. Move to create a red tape removal committee comprised of both internal commission members and external stakeholders that will review regulations for potential streamlining and report back to the commission as a whole by June 30th, 2026. May I pause right here? When you say as a whole, does that mean the entire external and internal will report as a whole body?
I meant report to the board. So however you'd like to word that.
That's a long ways away.
Well, we can exceed that deadline.
No. But my point is to report back. We're not going to wait till 2026.
Well, it's June. It holds us accountable, but if we can report back at any time.
Okay, fine. You know what I'm saying? I
Yes.
don't want to have a reason to not.
Nope, we're ready earlier. We report
Okay,
earlier.
fine.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. You-
Okay, so I'm gonna reread it again. Okay, the motion reads as follows. Move to create a red tape removal committee comprised of both internal commission members and external stakeholders that will review regulations for potential streamlining and report back to the commission as a whole by June 30th, 2026. The committee will include Chair O'Brien and Commissioner Roy as delegates.
Okay, I'm sorry. No later than.
Okay, if we could,
Does that make sense?
yes,
It's just, I think it implies that that's an,
we can till then.
okay, sorry.
I just edited that.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. It says the chair, should I say Chair O'Brien or just
That's the chair. Who
the
knows?
chair? Are you okay? Okay, okay.
That's- We know that can change.
Move to create a red tape removal committee comprised of both internal commission members and external stakeholders that will review regulations for potential streamlining and report back to the commission as a whole, no later than June 30th, 2026. The committee will include the chair and Commissioner Roy as delegates. Further, to direct the executive director in consultation with the chair to assign at a minimum staff representatives from I&E, including licensing, legal, equity program and community outreach, government affairs and policy, and constituent services. Further, to direct the executive director in consultation with the chair, working with GAP to identify and include representatives from the industry for retail, cultivation, manufacturing, and ITLs, as well as a representative from the Massachusetts Cannabis Business Association and the Massachusetts Cannabis Coalition.
I think it's good. Commissioner Stebbins, do you have any questions or comments here?
Thank you, Chair. Just some comments. Certainly, I support this effort. I know we've long talked about the need to update, modernize our regs. And reminder to folks out there who think that the current regs that have been drafted are only about social consumption. We're also making changes to agent registration, ITL, agent renewal, and a number of agents required to oversee wasting. And I think, as I believe you do, Chair, getting back to the timing of this, fully anticipating we might have to do regs again after the first of the year, that we not let some things wait if they're ready to go. I know that our team who deal with the regulations every day, and I think this is important to have them as part of the working committee, consider what they see on a daily basis from a compliance perspective. I think they've also been keeping a running list of potential changes that might be a good start, and I'm glad to see they'll be part of the conversation as well. Additionally, all of our work, needs not just be focused on regulatory reduction, but finding those opportunities to clarify our regulations so that we're offering more clarity to our licensees and our investigators, eliminating confusion and misunderstanding. I know I&E is anxious to clarify some of our regs around advertising. I think that's important. Secondly, we should also continue our efforts to simplify reporting requirements for licensees. We've talked a lot the last couple of meetings about, renewals and licensees' progress on positive impact plans and diversity plans. And we kind of leave it to each licensee to kind of concoct their own reporting document. And sometimes it's really extensive and probably provides us more than what we need. But if we thought of what is a quick way for them to comply, get like a template they can all work off of, I think that would help expedite the process. The other, and I know we did some of that around Chapter 180 and how we updated, Mass CIP to capture some of that information. And the other thing is, let's come up with some other topics I'm sure I can come up with some other topics that might be helpful to the committee, but certainly hope some of these changes may also lighten the workload of our team. Also cautioned, we've had the same team carrying a lot of responsibilities despite having a flatline budget over the last couple of years. So I'm sure as we think about things that would lighten the load on our team would also be helpful. But I know it's not mentioned in the motion as drafted, but certainly I think it goes without saying that review of any reg changes, we're not going to jeopardize public health and safety at the end of the day, but thinking that, the review is certainly timely and appropriate. And again, I like the idea of once something's ready and if it fits within our next regulatory window, we should move quickly to incorporate some of those changes.
I agree.
So,
And I like you saying template.
way I said it, or you like the idea?
I like the idea.
Oh, okay,
That's
okay.
fine.
But you said it really well too.
Okay, template.
But anyway, and again, you know the more we can simplify the ability for licensees to, and I know that you and I agreed wholeheartedly about the creation of the training, director of training, which is to go out and to work with licensees to help answer their questions and allow them to comply so that they can stay in compliance. So anyway, I love that and I think that's great. So thanks for that comments. Commissioner Roy?
And I agree with Commissioner Stebbins about lightening the workload. That's also a lens we need to bring to this table. And I will flag for future consideration, what I'd like to look at is architectural review. Because that is, a big part of the workload when we have architectural reviews. And what made me start thinking of it is hearing from I&E about social consumption and the event license type and how the ABCC relies on local control, right? There's a lot of local permitting and a lot of local control.
Which is duplicative.
Which is duplicative. And so you can apply that lens to architectural review because all of that has to go through building permits and codes and local control. So, and we don't really employ architects, and so maybe that's something that is better left to local control, architectural review, because it can slow up someone that's expanding their, not just a structural change, but an architectural change. It can cause delays.
Is general counsel, that architectural, that language about making, us reviewing with non-architects and non-engineers changes to architectural plans, is that in regulation? That is regulation.
That's regulation.
That will need a regulatory change. Is that, I just want to confirm that with you.
I would have to double check, Chair, but
It's not statute, it's in regulation.
if you could repeat the question, I think I may have.
So the issue that Commissioner Roy was talking about specifically is that our investigative team, our licensing team, has to review any changes to, or, when you're doing renovations inside your building. And we don't have any engineers or architects on our staff, yet we are reviewing that. Most of that is done at the local level. So I just was asking, is that in statute or is that in regulation? You'll get back to me on that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, thanks. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Go ahead.
As well, I've had this discussion prior to my starting as well from a municipal side of, building inspectors kind of, they have building inspectors, similar to sealers of weights and measures, et cetera, have kind of had questions about what is in our lane, what is in the CCC. So certainly that is something as well that we'd want to work on. Make sure that if we're shifting anything to municipalities that we're working with them on, but I have no concern that we could put that effort in.
But is it shifting or is it just saying you have the expertise to do it and we respect your expertise locally? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I think certainly some of the components that we would hear in our building department in Holliston would be why are we going through these things with a building inspector when we're doing an architectural review with the CCC, for example? So I think we'd want to make sure that we were working with the municipalities too, if we're changing those processes. But I think that would really be the case for most things that the red tape removal committee might recommend, that we would need to work with a few different stakeholders in various instances. So just flag.
Thank you. I appreciate that perspective.
Yeah, listen, if I may, it's also an additional cost to the licensee. Is for a review request fee is $1,500. So that's just some red tape, maybe,
Okay. All right.
Sure.
Commissioner Stebbins?
Sure. Just a quick question. Reading the motion language and invite Commissioner Roy or the ED to kind of think about this. We've long talked about how we engage members of the CAB. Is that a group you consider including, or how might they also have an active voice in this process?
I hear that, but one of the things maybe I think it's up to the group to get input from the CAB. And I think that's one of the things I know that the executive director has been trying to re-energize the connections. One of the concerns I do have, and it's not, I disagree, but it's making sure that this is big enough to get a breadth of feedback, but small enough that we can get it to work. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's something that the executive director and I can talk about, that we can get feedback, but whether or not they're part of this, I almost like your thought on it, because sometimes things get bigger, it doesn't necessarily get better.
Right. Right.
So let Commissioner.
And if I may, the CAB can bring us recommendations at any time.
Right.
So anytime they're welcome to. I know my research, the one I am the liaison, the research subcommittee is highly active. We've had, over 2 years and 2 different amazing chairs, Dr. McNabb and Ellen Brown. We have brought recommendations to the full CAB, which has been voted on, I think all unanimously. And some of them I believe we have adopted. So they do have a vehicle to get to us. And we do always welcome their input. It's really important.
So I just want to.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
no,
okay.
just
That's a good
I
suggestion.
thinking
appreciate.
about adding it.
Oh,
just
all right.
general
Okay. I didn't know if you.
context.
I didn't know if you.
No,
wanted
that
to
was
change the language. No, that's an excellent point. GC.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to get back to you on your question, upon quick review, it appears that the language is not in statute, but in our regs.
Oh, thank you.
That's
Very
great.
good.
Great news.
Thanks. All right. So do we want to, so is there any further discussion on that? Because we have a subtopic here on responsible vendor
So I think we need to.
training. So we vote on
Want to
that
give it
first?
or wait? Do you want to vote on that? Did we vote on that motion?
Yeah, okay, so we can take a vote now because I didn't know if we needed to discuss that at all. Okay, so if there are not further questions or comments, Commissioner Stebbins, I will entertain a motion to approve the appointment in the language as we have drafted live here, the red tape removal discussion and committee appointment.
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy, will you second that?
Second.
Having been moved and seconded, I'll take a call of the roll. Chair votes aye. Commissioner Stebbins?
Aye.
Commissioner Roy?
Aye.
It is passed unanimously. And then now we're getting to responsible vendor training cadence. And is that the executive director? Are you doing that?
Certainly. So there was a request to look at the ability to change the cadence of responsible vendor training from every year to some other cadence. And the general counsel's office has looked at that. I think there are some other discussions that may come out of that, but I'll through the chair, have the general counsel give a summary of that opinion.
Great. Thank you. General counsel?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Executive Director. We have looked at the issue and the requirements for RDT do appear in our regulations, and they do provide for an annual recertification process, so that to the extent that any changes are desired, they would have to be done through the regulation regulation review and amendment process.
So just restate that, Commissioner Wright, go ahead.
Oh, do you want?
No, go ahead, Commissioner Wright.
And so I guess the question incumbent upon this board is RVT has, or I guess in conjunction with our general counsel, is RVT has come up in the public hearing. It's come up in our social consumption deliberations, the topic of RVT. So do we meet the threshold where we can next week tackle it and submit it in with social consumption?
If I may,
Yes.
Chair. I think that question's been posed to the Deputy General Counsel, and I think there have been discussions about that. He is of the opinion, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I do believe that he's indicated to me that he would consider that to be out of scope.
Out of scope?
Out of scope. So that would have to be done.
If I could request Attorney Baker to maybe join us up here and provide us this feedback if possible. We've been talking a lot of scope lately.
Thank you, Madam.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and GC. Yes, I agree with the statement the General Counsel just made. We are amending one section of that area in 105, which is just relative to creating a new RVT program centered around the new consumption regulations. So to get at this holistically, I think would be outside the scope here, kind of in similar conversations that we've had on other subjects. So,
Okay, Commissioner Roy?
Deputy General Counsel, in the meantime, is there any tools at the executive director's disposal that he can execute so that could override current, like we've done with administrative or executive delegations? Is there anything at his disposal that in the meantime we could address RVT.
Waive.
If I may,
Please,
Madam
Chair.
Chair, I don't know if you have something in mind, Commissioner Roy, but there's nothing that I'm aware of that would allow for a blanket authority to override our regulations.
Okay, Commissioner Roy, if you.
Well, I'm just thinking of like, I mean, and granted, this was a health emergency, COVID, like the executive director allowed for curbside when we really didn't have provisions that allowed for that. So I'm just kind of using that as an analogy. It's not perfect analogy, but I'm using that.
General Counsel, and what authority did the former executive director have to be able to waive those regulations around? What is the basis of, was his ability to waive during COVID, the ability to do curbside?
Well, there are certain additional flexibility and authority given during periods of emergency, issues regarding public health and safety, that sort of thing, and that would have fallen into that bucket. A similar analogy, I don't think, can be made here in this circumstance.
Thank you.
Any further, executive director?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just, and I'm happy to go back and look at that because I think that is an interesting example. And obviously as well, a lot of state agencies, municipalities as well, were operating under the governor's orders,
Yeah.
which kept getting extended for a period of time. So, but I'm happy to make sure that we go back and look at that. Was there another example outside of COVID that we could look at that you're thinking of? Okay.
Not off the top.
Commissioner Stebbins?
Are you all done? Okay.
No, he raised the question. Commissioner Stebbins, I don't know if you're responding or not.
Yeah, I just want to touch on the topic kind of overall. I agree. We have to change up RVT. Talked about it last meeting. You know, we also have an advanced curriculum, which I would like to see how review that for its use. You know, I think I said it last week. I'd love to see RVT just not be this compliance tool,
Right.
but also how it can be part of an individual's professional development. I think you pointed out it was heavily focused on retail. How does somebody use it if they're in the cultivation space or the product manufacturing space? I think it'd also be interesting to look at how we might be able to fold in the 70+ classes that we offer through the UPCO program, the SAP, to see if there's some value there. And we also know there's community colleges are doing certain things. So I think this is another great place where we can reach out to the industry and see how they would envision or think about RVT. But definitely, you know, it's, as I said, to sit through a couple of those classes. And again, this has nothing to do with our trainers. They're engaging, they're smart. They're just teaching to the curriculum we've given them. And I think it's time for an update.
And I will agree with you, and I'll get to you in just, I will agree with you. I actually had meetings with a couple of community college presidents, and I think that there are some ways that we can actually partner more closely with community college, which for many people right now are free. And we're trying to figure out, you know, how they can work not only to prepare people to get 4-year degrees, but how to prepare them for industry. So that is something that I would like to take a look at as well. Commissioner Roy?
Thank you, Chair. And so I guess what I'll, be thinking about is biennially versus triennially. So every 2 years or every 3 years. Where my head is at now is the certificate should be portable, right? So if I work for Shannon's Cannabis, I take it, and then I leave and work for Kim's Cannabis, I have to take it again.
Yeah.
Like, it makes sense. So it really should be portable. The other component is the 8 hours. So 4 hours of RVT. So what are the other 4 hours? And I think that's an opportunity that how do we make it better? How do we, provide educational value that makes sense? So, I'd like to streamline this and make it more real world and practical.
All right. So there's no motion.
No,
Here.
it's in the written.
So, but this will, all right. So at this juncture, I would entertain a motion to take a brief break of about 10 minutes. And so we will reconvene at 2:30. well, let's say 2:45, which means we'll be back. So at 2:45, we will reconvene. I entertain a motion to, what's the term? Not
Recess.
recess, geez. To recess, Commissioner Roy,
So moved.
Commissioner Stebbins,
Second.
moved and seconded, call the roll. Chair O'Brien votes aye. Commissioner Roy,
Aye.
Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you. We will be back at 2:45. Okay, reconvening. And now we are, Commissioner Roy had a friendly amendment to the last vote, so I'm not sure how we do that. So if I could have you
Sure.
state what you'd like your
course.
friendly amendment
Yeah.
to be and figure it how we revote that.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks.
As we had this great discussion about addressing some of the red tape that no longer needs to be red tape, if you will, we did receive an email from Kevin Gelnack from Eon, and I've worked very closely with Kevin over the years, meeting with Eon and members of the Massachusetts Cannabis Equity Council as their guests. I actually also provide testimony on certain parts of the proposed bill, working in conjunction, with feedback from Eon. So I value their opinion. We all do, in their input. So we can address it one or two ways. The executive director and chair can reach out to Kevin to include him in the red tape removal committee, or we can include a friendly amendment to add Eon or delegate to the motion language. So I guess I would defer to GCED on the best course.
Go ahead, GC.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think under this circumstance, if there would be there can be a motion
Can we
to
move to reconsider?
either reconsider or amend, either one, and then,
As I was told by the former clerk of the Massachusetts House, the rules of procedure of the legislature predate Robert's rules, so I sometimes don't know. But is that appropriate now? I think it's a motion to reconsider. Is that what we would do? In the legislature, you can move to reconsider, and half the time it's really just to close it off from reconsidering. But is that appropriate now under Robert's rules to reconsider the motion and then amend it and then take it over again? I think that might be the procedure, but
I
I'm not
think I would agree with
I'm
that.
not really
Yes, I
expert
think
at
so.
this.
Yes.
Okay, so do I entertain a motion to reconsider the red tape removal discussion committee formation?
So moved.
Do I hear a second to reconsider that vote?
Second.
Having been moved and seconded, I will take a call of the roll. Chair votes aye. Commissioner Stebbins?
Aye.
Commissioner Roy?
Aye.
So then we now have to move
To amend.
to move to reconsidering. I just want to make sure we're not missing a step. And I do have Robert's Rules for Dummies at home, but I didn't bring it. So move to reconsider. We have moved, so now do we have to reconsider? That's what I'm saying. Is there like an additional step where we actually reconsider, or we just go right to the vote?
Well, I think you can now have discussion, if I may, have discussion regarding any language changes that you want to incorporate, and then go ahead and.
So what I'll do is I will allow Commissioner Roy to add the language that she'd like. We will take another vote, and then if in the interim, someone takes a deeper dive on Robert's rules, maybe we can fix that briefly at another meeting, right? Because I feel like, I just want to make sure we're not missing.
If I may, Madam Chair.
Sorry, Commissioner Wright.
To move to reconsider and vote, and then to amend the language, a member who originally voted on the prevailing side must first make a motion to reconsider. So we were all on the prevailing side, so any one of us could make a motion to reconsider the previously adopted motion. If the reconsideration motion passes, the original motion is reopened as if it had never been considered, and allowing for debate and new amendments to the language.
Thank you. All right, so now I will entertain your rewritten motion for our approval.
Do I have to reread the whole thing or just, yes? Okay. All right. All right. So the motion reads as, unless we add it to it before I read it. Yeah, that would be helpful. So let's take 10 seconds, 20 seconds.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Please, thank you.
Would you like to consider a fifth representative representing MTCs on the medical side as well while I'm updating this? Or we-
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Madam Chair.
And I don't want to make it too big, but that is a good suggestion. Commissioner Stebbins?
Yeah, I would, we're redrafting this motion. I think getting back to a point that was raised earlier, I know we're trying to identify and include representatives from identified groups, but could we say to identify and include to identify, trying to look for the language of
Right.
not to exclude additional folks that you may want to include.
Oh, to give
Go.
room.
But the only thing I'm gonna say is that then could become a kind of free for all. And I don't really, you know what I'm saying?
The ability to.
He's trying to give you flexibility.
All right, okay, all right. So can you articulate that for the executive director? Because the one thing I don't want to do is,
I would say include but not limited to.
okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, that language,
Yeah.
included but not limited to.
okay.
That would give you and the AD to work, flexibility to work together if you identify.
But I would like to say to the world,
It's not gonna be,
I would really like to keep this compact.
yeah,
I don't want this to become overly complex.
Yep.
It needs to be, just like we're trying to remove red tape, we want this to be streamlined to have impact as fast as
Right, I
possible.
agree.
So I am saying that to the world. I'm hoping we're not going to get a lot, because I think that we've kind of identified where we need to be. If we've missed anything, fine, but I would like us
so I
to
guess where the
reduce that. as
Madam
much as
Madam
possible.
Chair, where it says the committee will include, but not limited to, the chair, Commissioner Roy, his delegates, further to direct the,
Thank you.
so
So
we have the
are you-
more language.
Where do you want it?
So where it says, the committee will include, but not limited to. That's Commissioner Stebbins' friendly amendment.
Thank you.
See if that works.
Okay, all right, I'm gonna read, Madam Chair, would you like me to read it?
Please, thank you.
Okay, so the motion, the new motion reads as follows. As follows, move to create a red tape removal committee comprised of both internal commission members and external stakeholders that will review regulations for potential streamlining and report back to the commission as a whole, no later than June 30th, 2026. The committee will include, but not limited to, the chair and Commissioner Roy as delegates, further to direct the executive director in consultation with the chair to assign at a minimum staff representatives from I&E, including licensee, legal, equity programming, community outreach, government affairs and policy, and constituent services. Further to direct the executive director in consultation with the chair, working with GAP to identify and include representatives from the industry for retail, cultivation, manufacturing, ITLs, and MTCs, as well as a representative from the Massachusetts Cannabis Business Association, Equitable Opportunities Now, and the Massachusetts Cannabis Coalition.
I think that as stated, full stop, that's perfect. I'll entertain a motion to adopt that new language.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Having been moved and seconded, I'll take a call of the roll. Chair votes aye. Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
As reconfigured, it is unanimously approved. So again, taking some of these items out of order, we will be going to the UMDI report. This was done in March of 2021. And just to provide some context, this was a report that was done in conjunction with both a PhD from Johns Hopkins, members from the Donahue Institute, and Executive Director Hearn, can you tell me what the total cost was for this report that we put it, that was, I think it was commissioned back in 2021. I believe that in September-ish of 2022, we had that on the agenda and it did not move forward. So we're talking now 3 years since we initially attempted to accept this $200,000 report, which we still have not accepted at this point in time. So if you could just confirm for me that we paid $200,000 to complete this report that was meant to expand and ensure that more opportunities to provide extra benefits to persons disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs. So can you just clarify how much this cost for a report that we have still not accepted?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The CFAO pulled the reports dating back to the billing dating back to 2020, 2019 and 2020. It looks like the report itself was $183,818.10. And an additional billing for meeting costs that was $9,575 and 89 cents, and that totals $193,393.99.
Bargain. So anyway, are there any comments or questions? Commissioner Roy?
Yeah, thank you. And, just to reiterate this report, the date on it is March of 2021. We've all had many years with this report. Again, we hear conditions being placed on licensees that they're not fulfilling their positive impact plan. And a lot of that is geographically confining, where there are no communities to positively impact around them. And now we are in the age of social consumption. I've had the opportunity, along with Commissioner Stebbins, to visit Somerville and visit P-Town. And when we left, I was with Commissioner Camargo in P-Town. And when we left P-Town, they're so excited for it, but they're not a recognized DIA, and there's none in the Cape next to, in now Truro, and it would be on there, and Somerville, right? So Somerville would now become recognized by the commission as an area of disproportionate impact, which they are very eager to have social consumption. This was done with a racially diverse lens of researchers.
If I could just interrupt you, I think you need to clarify, because this was not the first, this was the second study that was completed. And it was to add a racial lens on the criminal conviction rates. Is that?
That is accurate, yes. And it took in more NIBRS data, if you will, and there was no racial lens, my understanding, on the first report, and there was on the second report. This is actually, I have been told, the gold standard report, which is ironic. The rest of the nation looks to it and we haven't accepted it. And so I find that, not a great commentary, if you will, that the rest of the country looks to this report done by esteemed researchers, one from Johns Hopkins and folks from the Donahue Institute and our own staff. We haven't.
And our own chief of
research,
Julie
yes.
Johnson.
So, I think it's time that we expand the map and provide more opportunities to places like Somerville, that are eager to get into social consumption. And so I, eagerly voting yes on this report to accept.
Commissioner Stebbins.
Sure. Thank you, Chair, and thank my colleagues, I think, for the points you brought forward. I do recall this report. I obviously recall the many conversations we had around it. For me, I don't feel comfortable voting on this today. I would certainly entertain the opportunity to table it for a future meeting. I have concerns about some recent judicial decisions that have come out, what the impact to our budget might be. How does this align with the ED's goals for a strategic plan for our social equity program? I also have some interest in reviewing how we use the census tracts in 3 of our largest cities, with respect to what limitations might be there. So I don't hesitate to think that we need to come back and revisit this topic, and Commissioner Roy raises some good points. I don't feel I can vote for it today just based on some of the additional review I need to do.
Can I just, if you could just sort of walk through, all right, so your first concern is you just raised, and you just raised. So what is your first concern? Because again, we've had 3 years to raise these questions prior to this, right? 3 years. And you actually raised an issue today that this could actually potentially help solve a problem for our friends in AC, otherwise known as Nantucket. So can you just walk through the 3 concerns again, having had 3 years to raise this or question it or investigate it? Just walk me through what your concerns are.
Well-
You raised several. Could
Yeah,
you walk
I'm
through?
happy to go through
Yeah.
this and thank you. And, I do think it's important to keep in mind when we did not take up this report, we sent the report back for further review. I'm not sure what follow-up was done to that. It was part of the motion back in
They just,
2022 or whenever we did it. But anyways, my concerns are around the recent court decision on the Second Circuit
Right.
relative to.
right, so that was the first.
That was the
So I
first
would
one,
like
yep.
I would like our general counsel to raise the issue of the Commissioner Commissioner Roy, and then I would like an explanation from our general counsel as to this as yet undecided legal decision. I would like Commissioner Roy, and then I would like our general counsel to respond.
Okay, so the decision on the Second Circuit involved New York in residency requirements.
Mhm.
And it said it was unconstitutional based on the Dormant Commerce Clause. My understanding that is going to be appealed, and it could be appealed all the way as far as up to the Supreme Court. So there is not a final ruling on where that stands.
Sure.
Okay, so if that is upheld at the Supreme Court, then that means we need to revisit our entire regulatory scheme around social equity program and the current DIA, because they all have residency requirements or convictions under Massachusetts general law. So then you're throwing in a question, if you're going to vote no today based on that, then how can we uphold what we already have? Because it's the same argument would apply to the SCP program, which has residency requirements, as well as the current map that we have has residency requirements and Massachusetts general law convictions. So we're not in the Second Circuit, number one, and it hasn't gone to the Supreme Court, number two. So that's like a what if scenario that isn't real yet. And if it was real, we'd have to redo our entire social equity program, would be considered unconstitutional if it holds up. So that's, for me, no reason to not move forward with the information that we have. Again, we've had 2021, one could argue you've had 4 years. Your name is on the report, actually. This was before I started. Your name is on it. So you've had 4 years with it. And we were both in Somerville, and we both know that they're not a DIA, but they could be if we simply vote yes today to expand opportunities. That's what we're doing. Today is about expanding opportunities. And we get criticized for overanalyzing everything to death, and we move too slow and we take too long. And we're trying to red tape removal. This is, to me, another red tape we're going to remove today. Gone if we're able to vote yes. So the Second Circuit is the Second Circuit. We don't live in the Second Circuit, and it hasn't gone up the judicial system. So that's more of a hypothetical to me, which throws into question our entire regulatory scheme around equity. So I just wanted to share my thoughts on this.
If I can also ask, when we did not move forward on approving, this just says your call has dropped. I'm just hoping that we're not having, all right. When we were looking at this study, which would cost the commission shy of $200,000 to accomplish, which was the second iteration, which added, as when you were here, the racial lens, they're questioning whether or not we're live.
No, I did, because I thought you just.
Oh, all right, well, I can't see. So anyway, so did we add, Lawrence was not included in that study.
And we voted to.
And how did we add Lawrence? Was there any research?
A multifarious motion.
Right.
And then we had Worcester, census tract, Great Brook Valley added in Worcester.
With no research.
Yes.
So we as commissioners are able to unilaterally add to those communities without any research being done. Yes, we have that within our authority. Okay. So the issue of this circuit opinion, which we're not in the circuit, which it could go to the Supreme Court. And if it goes to the Supreme Court, I hope we don't have to spend another $200,000, or maybe they just throw it out and then it throws our social equity into disarray. So again, because you've had 4 years to review this, I don't think that this legal opinion or this legal decision impacts us. And if it does, we got to throw the whole baby out with the bathwater. So what is your second concern besides the legal?
Sure. No, good questions. And again, I appreciate the discussion and just by reference to why we included that extra census tract in Worcester is because it had been omitted from the original report, and whoever did the report came back and said error on our part. So that was folded in because it was missed the first time around. Again.
But it was this report that added it, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we haven't accepted the report.
That part was taken out because there was an omission that census tract had not been included and should have been included.
Okay. All right. So the next.
Again, as we talk about impact on our SCP program, how does this align with the ED's goal that we gave him to create a strategic plan for the SCP? And then,
could I interrupt?
Sure.
Could you, Executive Director, could you say how in any way this could obstruct your ability to meet your performance goals? How would this be deleterious to you meeting your performance goals by simply accepting the report that was done 3 years ago at a cost of $200,000? How would this in any way obstruct your ability to accomplish your goals?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not sure I can answer this specific question. I think generally as I look at it and as I'm understanding the questions from Commissioner Stebbins is more about thinking about this more holistically with the entire program. And so with that, again, this would fit into the entirety of the strategic plan, I think, is kind of how I'm looking at Commissioner Stebbins' questions.
Okay. And then your next point.
and then the other question I have is around review and use of just simply census tracts within Worcester, Boston, and Springfield. And again, we just put this on the agenda since last Thursday. I understand the report has been out longer than that for all of us to consider. I want to take some time, and we can put this on the next agenda, and I hope I can clarify and resolve any questions that I have, but I just don't feel comfortable voting on accepting the report today.
Commissioner Roy?
So in the, it says, we will consider several other measures available in the US Census and ACS data for inclusion in our models, based on the correlation with arrests and with poverty. Okay, unemployment rate, labor force participation, high school completion. Ultimately, the team construed an index score that could be used by policymakers without too many duplicative measures. The high correlation between unemployment and poverty in general led the research team to fear, let's see. Oh, okay. The high correlation between unemployment and poverty in general led the researchers to fear they ultimately may be measuring and adding the same concept into the model twice, which could result in misestimated rankings. Poverty is a more comprehensive measure of economic deprivation as it captures the reality they are working poor who are not employed, who may be in poverty. So my understanding is they did bake that in. So I guess I'm confused by your question with the census tracts.
My concern about the use of just census tract data, and I know, again, this only pertains to our 3 largest cities, is that, the war on drugs, the prohibition on cannabis didn't stop on one side of the street and not impacted on the other side of the street. So my question, again, that I want to explore is, should we talk to the city of Boston, talk to the city of Worcester, talk to the city of Springfield and say, do you want us to limit you to just census tracts or potentially open it up for the whole city, which I'm sure was impacted overall for a lot of the statistics that were being measured.
Does this accepting the $200,000 study, which we've had for 3 years, does that preclude us from having those conversations? Because again, as I pointed out, we voted to put Lawrence in without any research whatsoever because they didn't collect the data. So for your thinking, does that preclude us from having those conversations?
I'd feel more comfortable voting on a report that expanded the data and how it aligned with those three largest.
Expand. We can still do that, but again, because we are limited in our budget right now, right? If they're not mutually exclusive, except one is done, one has already cost us $200,000.
I get that.
So we can still accomplish what you want. It is not, this vote does not prohibit us from doing exactly what you want. Do you agree with that?
I don't necessarily know if it does prohibit us from doing.
General Counsel, could you explain how under our regulations, we have this, it provides opportunities for certain communities that with $200,000 worth of research, a robust and rigorous report was put together. If we adopt this report, does that preclude us from having additional conversations with municipalities, which I assume will cost more money and take a lot more time? Will it preclude us from having those conversations with communities so that we can add upon that and improve the issue of census tracts, which, by the way, we also know may be rendered moot by a Supreme Court decision? So as it stands right now, I'll restate, does accepting this report today stop us from doing what Commissioner Stebbins wants to do, which is to spend time and money to have those additional conversations with municipalities, to ask them what they want to do with census tracts? Does that stop us from doing that?
If I may, Madam Chair,
Please.
I think, to be frank, this conversation should be a wider conversation, having to do with not looking backwards, but looking forward, given developments in the case law. And so I think looking at this in a narrow way is not going to be helpful for the commission. So
Commissioner Roy, Commissioner Roy,
if I can,
giving the floor to Commissioner Roy.
just for the record, I'd like to.
Yes, you've answered
I've
the
been-
question, but I disagree with the legal opinion. I think it is limiting. I think it is wasting time. I think it is wasting money. And this report, at a cost of nearly $200,000, was rigorously done. We've had 3 years to consider it. We have real needs right now to expand and focus on social equity. Now, again, we know this could all be thrown out with a Supreme Court decision that we don't even know. We don't even know if they'll accept it, right? It doesn't apply to us now. We don't know if this is going to go to the Supreme Court that then will apply to us. And then we're going to have to throw everything out and start again. So my question was not the legal background. My question was specifically, does accepting this report that we paid $200,000 for, does that preclude us from having those timely conversations with municipalities to get their feedback? Because, by the way, it probably makes sense to do this, given your concern about I forget if it's first or second, whatever circuit, the Second Circuit decision. We probably should be doing that anyway. So my question is back. Does accepting this report preclude us from having those conversations to discuss census tracts, to be ready for whatever the Supreme Court may or may not do? Does that preclude those conversations or that research from happening? Just a yes or no answer.
Well, it's with all due respect, Madam Chair, there's a lot in that question.
Taking back the floor. I'm literally asking a yes or no question. I'm asking a yes or no question. We've spent $200,000. We have a rigorously researched report that was done at the behest of current commissioners and former commissioners, because the first report did not take into account the right racial lens. This one did that. So the question I'm asking is yes or no only. Does accepting this $200,000 report, which we've had 3 years to review, 3 years to question, does that stop us in any way from having additional conversations about the census tract, about what the Supreme Court could? Just yes or no. That's all. I don't want I want a yes or no answer.
And I'm sorry, I can't provide a yes or no.
Okay,
answer.
thank you. Commissioner Roy.
Yes, I'm gonna move the question so we can vote on this report, but in the meantime, why are we making perfect the enemy of good? Which I don't understand with hypotheticals that don't exist. You know, regardless of how the Great Brook Valley Census Tract did not get in the report, that was a clerical error. It didn't get in, but we had the discretion to add that well, regardless of how it didn't get in, we had the discretion to add that census tract. That was our discretion. We can add more census tracts if we come into more information. But why are we, you know, you keep saying 3 years. This report is actually 5 years old, and almost 5 years old. And so, you know, we've had plenty of time with this. And, you know, again, I don't understand, you know, we're talking about hypotheticals in the Second Circuit that could go to the Supreme Court to impact us that haven't happened yet. We've had multi years to review this. We have people that are ready to invest $1 million in an air handling system for social consumption, but they live in Somerville and because 3 people decide we don't want to recognize them when we have a $200,000 report that looked at incarceration rates and arrest data and racial, you know, looking at race, which the first report didn't. So I'd like to move the question to vote up or down on the report.
And under Robert's rules, can the chair second a motion? I second that motion. Having been moved and seconded to accept the $200,000 4-year-old study based on that expands disproportionately impacted areas maps so that we can better achieve our goal of expanding social equity in Massachusetts. I will entertain a call of the roll. Commissioner Stebbins?
No.
Commissioner Roy?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you. We can move on to the next issue.
I apologize.
No, we had to do it. So now we will move on to general matters, legal billing. And this is an issue that one of the things.
Madam Chair.
Oh, Commissioner Roy.
Before we move on, I'm profoundly disappointed that we didn't accept this. You know, in all honesty, we've had this for so many years, hundreds of $1,000s in budget. And Commissioner Stebbins, when will you be comfortable to vote on this?
I'm happy to vote on it in the future. I mean, let's stop for a second. Don't try to bully me into a vote.
I'm not.
You've had this report for 3 years. You've had this report your previous time here and currently back. All I'm saying is these are the questions. When this was added to the agenda, I still wanted to focus on. So I'm happy to reconsider. All I ask is that we table today's vote and certainly bring it up at a convenient time where I have a chance to tell the chair I'm ready to vote on it. And by the way, so I'm just sharing with you, I hope you respect my opinion, respect my concerns, and that's.
If I may.
If I can make a point, we literally on the fly, we've had this for 3 years. We literally on the fly just wrote a motion in real time, and we're going to be doing that next week. We're going to be in real time voting. We've had this for years.
Yeah.
I have had time. I was ready to vote on this in 2023. So again, Commissioner Roy, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Stebbins, I'm sorry you feel that way.
That's all right.
But we just set a date in the last motion language to hold us accountable. So we put June 30th, 2026. So it's appropriate for us to add, we've done it in the exclusivity. We put dates in all the time to hold ourselves accountable. So you had said next month. So I was asking you, when do you think you would be comfortable? Because you use the words next month.
I'm happy to do this next month. I mean, the agenda is at the discretion of the chair, so.
Can I tell you, then what we will do is we will add this to the agenda for October 23rd. So I don't see Matt Giancola here, but this will be added to the agenda for the 23rd.
Okay.
So again, you have voted no, it goes down, but I will put this back on the agenda for the 23rd. Okay, so we can move on. So Commissioner Roy, general matters, legal billing. So this was an issue that we have raised previously, because as I have stated, you know, again, we're talking about a $200,000 study that goes down. We had a legal budget set for $100,000 and the budget was tripled. In coming back and reviewing the legal budget, I realized that approximately, I think it's $80,000 or more, and we can get some clarity from the general counsel, but tens of thousands of dollars of our billables are being referenced as general matters. And these are things that it is my understanding that these are real in-depth issues of research. There have been some questions that have been raised about we don't want to share private or personally protected information. Yet, when I have reviewed the legal bills, you can clearly see that individuals who are the subject, in particular, some of the separation agreements, we literally put persons' names in there. So I don't know how that is protected, who is it that is making the determination? When we have $80,000, I think it's more, is it more than $80,000? What is the, Commissioner Roy, how much?
In general matters?
In general matters.
$90,995.
How much?
$190,995.
So out of our
the
three,
last 2
out of, is that 2 years or what?
The last 2 fiscal years.
Okay, so our entire budget last year was $100,000, and a significant portion, the majority of that, was described as general matters. So I would ask the general counsel to explain, A, we understand that the budget was tripled. We understand that it's $200,000 that is going to general matters, which the public can't see, and it's $200,000 that did not go to our fully robust social equity program. General counsel, if you could just answer that question.
Madam Chair, I'll defer to the executive.
I'm asking you the question.
And again,
I'm asking you the question because I believe that you are the person who, are you the person who approves legal budget?
well, if I may, Madam, I've only been here a year. So to the extent that you're talking about legal billings that predate my arrival, I
I am
cannot comment
talking
on
about
them.
your tenure. I'm talking strictly about your tenure. I'm asking the process, but I'm asking you with all due respect, with all due respect, I'm asking you under your tenure, how have you made the determination to list items as general matters versus the specificity and accountability and transparency that I think the commission owes to the public?
Again, I'll just answer briefly and then turn it over to the executive director.
No, I want a determination who has the floor. I'm asking you the question.
I'll just simply say that the practice that we follow, Madam Chair, is consistent with private sector and public sector entities and how they do their legal billing. And we have consulted with the comptroller and other agencies who have endorsed our practice.
So what I will say to you is we have an ethics standard, right? We have an ethics law in Massachusetts. And does the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission have a heightened ethics standard?
We have an enhanced code of conduct, yes.
Right. So why do we do that?
There are certain matters for which legal protections are required, and it is a very established procedure to protect attorney-client privilege matters in the way that legal matters are billed, and we are following very established practice in the way we do our billing. And I'll turn it over to the executive director to add more.
This is, I'm sharing this, okay? And so Commissioner Roy, did you have a comment that you wanted to raise?
If I may, Madam Chair, I inquired with the comptroller for more clarity, and I probably didn't phrase it eloquently enough. So I'm glad to see we are coding it properly, right? So we're using the right code. So I sent a follow-up inquiry today, and the comptroller has since office has gotten back to me, and they're looking for more information. So the full endorsement is not there yet. So I have to provide some more information to the comptroller's office. So I guess what I'm asking about is this is a transparency question as treasurer, and I understand the need for confidentiality and I understand all of that, but it's not consistent. It seems certain matters were general matters, and a lot of the invoices that I approved and looked at and I sign off on the monthly memo did have names and did have the subject of the legal matter. There was a particular matter that seems to be under the opaque veil of general matters. So who decides when triaging it? Is it general matters under the opaque veil? Or do we list, Susie Q and what the matter was? Because a lot of them did have the employee's name and a lot of them did have the matter, but then there was one matter that's, I'm surmising, that all went under the opaque veil of general matters. So the consistency, if someone can explain the inconsistency, that would be very helpful as treasurer.
And general counsel, again, you do not get to direct the floor. The question is for you, because are you the person who approves legal? Are you in charge of oversight of our outside counsel?
If I may, I mean, the questions here relate to billing. And as I've stated before, the billing practices that we have adopted are consistent with those of other public sector and private sector entities.
I've asked a very specific question. Do you direct the work of outside counsel? Again, we had a budget of $100,000, which was established possibly prior to your arrival. I believe that most of that tripling has fallen under your authority. But the question that I'm asking is, are you responsible for managing the legal budget? Is that yes or no?
I along with the CPO, have authority to approve legal expenses.
Okay. And so who is responsible for making sure we're living within our budget and protecting the taxpayers' resources?
That would be a combined responsibility of the executive director, the general counsel, the CPO, CFAO, as we look at the needs of the commission and the budget that we have. Some of the things that you just referenced predate my time, and this notion of tripling of the budget happened before my arrival, so I want to correct the record on that. But I do want to state that the expenses are very thoroughly analyzed, and we undertake work that is required of the commission to protect the commission's interests.
So who makes the decision about what the general public can see and what is hidden? Because it appears that there are almost two sets of books. There are ones that are available to a handful of people inside the commission, and then there is a lack of transparency for other senior commissioners' leadership. So who is the person who determines the labeling of the bill as general matters? Who makes that determination? Do you make that determination?
If I may, no. That is a matter between outside counsel and the commission. It is, again, reviewed by myself, the ED, CFO, and CPO. If I can just finish the thought.
Allows the outside counsel to send something with so little specificity.
As I said before, this is consistent with practices of other agencies and in the public and private sectors.
So again,
and
who determines whether or not the bills from outside counsel are appropriately transparent and honest, and that we have one set of books that are publicly available?
Madam Chair, that's a question for me.
I'm asking our general counsel, do you oversee and review and manage the budget of outside counsel? Do you do that?
I, along with other senior executives, including the executive director, who has more context on this issue than, and I'd encourage you to recognize him so he can provide that context for you. In addition to that, the CPO and the CFAO also have oversight authority. And we ensure that the expenses that are undertaken are prudently taken, are necessary expenses, and are done in the best interest of the commission.
Okay, getting to the prudently undertaken. So if the commissioners are not provided with transparency, who gets to determine what's prudent and what's not? If you could just answer that question, because I've just heard of prudent, and yet I think that this is a lack of transparency, that the commissioners, we vote on the budget. We vote on the budget $100,000 and then it's $300,000. So who is holding our outside counsel to the standard of transparency so that when the commissioners, how do the commissioners, after that money has gone out the door, after our social equity program is not fully funded, how do we know that those taxpayer monies, those public funds are being properly spent? And if you could just address that.
If I may, I'd like to review the process
Okay.
as a whole, which I think would be helpful for a variety of stakeholders. So Cannabis Control Commission utilizes external employment counsel, as all other state agencies do as well. And we have multiple types of engagements that are used. Morgan Brown and Joy was a firm that was previously used and engaged on employment matters for the commission. That contract expired on September 30th, 2025. An RFQ is in the planning stages with the CFAO, CPO, GC, ED, and the commissioners will be involved in that process. And that should be undertaken in the next 3 weeks. Separately, we do have Attorney Kathleen Burney and Hershey Roberts Weinstein, which is the commission's attorney of record at MCAT, but also has a general scope under other employment law related matters, which will be utilized during the course of that RFQ. The question was brought to the CFAO and myself regarding the appropriateness of using the term general matters by the commission's treasurer on legal billing, given the intent to review billing prior to approval. A response was provided, which I provided not just to the treasurer, but to all of the commissioners, that where general matters is used on the recorded bill, there is also an associated detailed bill that is filed with a limited circle of the CFAO, general counsel, CPO in the case of CBA related bills, collective bargaining bills, and the executive director. So that is the tight circle. The alternative to this practice is a redaction of the detailed bill. So from a transparency perspective, it is getting to the same general point, which is either general matters or redaction, both of which are acceptable and considered within the framework of best practices, which the CFAO, GC, myself have confirmed with the comptroller. Additionally, as the commission's treasurer just mentioned, she had sought feedback from the comptroller's office and confirmed that the practice of keeping the detailed bill on file when referencing the bill in the state system, which is MARS, is appropriate. Although there was a clarifying question that was sent earlier today, so I will report back on that. Additionally, as it relates to the need to audit the bills, which was discussed at the September 11/25 meeting, it should be noted that the detailed employment billing, which I believe is the question at hand here, was provided to the appropriate party for review, which is the state auditor's office, and no concerns were raised with the employment billing practice that is being discussed right now in the report that was published this year.
Commissioner Roy?
Yes, and thank you. That's helpful, Mr. Executive Director. Could you, the tight circle, can you repeat the you said?
CFAO,
Okay, and is the CPO only with collective bargaining?
generally, the CPO is signing off on the collective
Is this
bargaining billing specifically.
Okay, it's so helpful to understand this process. So the detailed goes to you, GC, CPO only if it's collective bargaining?
She's signing off on the collective bargaining.
Okay,
billing.
and the CFAO gets what?
The detailed billing.
Okay, it was my understanding she did not get the detailed.
Could I actually ask the CFAO to come up and help us suss through this?
Okay, so CFAO gets the detailed bills. Okay,
What we reflect in MARS, which is the state's system, is the bill number. And that is what we've confirmed again. So long as we have the detailed billing within our process and policies, that's what they are concerned, that we have our process in place. And that we were able to pull that. Now, again, the option of not using general matters simply means that, generally speaking, if we were to provide this type of information outside of that tight circle, it would be redacted for information that is otherwise covered in general.
say the last sentence again.
A fully redacted detailed billing versus general matters is ultimately getting to the same point, which is that certain information on that billing is private information.
So let's say separation agreement, the word separation agreement without a person's name, is that considered private?
It can be general matters. They can be either way. I mean, so a name generally can be also considered general matters so long as any additional information that may be related to it is.
So can you explain why it's not uniformly applied? So when I review all the invoices, so I'm seeing names, I'm seeing what the whatever it is, separation agreement, I'm seeing that. And then I get a tranche of that totaled up to 190,000 that says general matters. and for instance, so we had $100,000 budget, we went up to 300,000, which we should probably come back to, this is another conversation, come back to the board when we see we're gonna exceed something like that. We spent between investigations and outside counsel on a litigation that we probably should have been Switzerland or agnostic on, that cost $115,252. And we probably should have, we weren't a party to this litigation, and we probably shouldn't have, exhausted these resources. And the other point is, in January, we gave the general counsel the authority to file a motion to intervene in the Theory et al. Wellness case. In August of 2025, we revisited that to keep it so it would save you time coming to us each time, that if it was HCA related in conjunction with the executive director and the AGO, you could then file a motion to intervene. But on May 29th, 2025, you filed a motion to intervene unrelated to HCA's without our authority.
General Counsel, if you could respond to her question.
I believe, just for the record, this must be, I don't know how this fits in on this agenda topic,
I
so.
believe that's item number 4.
Well, the 300,000 in legal, it does fit tangentially, because the $300,000, we exceeded 200,000 by our budget of 100,000 by 200,000. That doesn't even include your time in general counsel to work on something that we weren't a party to and file a motion to intervene that we didn't grant you the authority to do. So again, so that's even dollars not even quantified. So it's higher than $300,000. Again, so back to the original discussion, all we're looking for is consistency, and no one's answered the question yet. Why are some general matters and others have names and legal subject matter? That's the real question too. I would love to get an answer to.
If I can sort of direct the question to the CFAO, it is my understanding that everything was not fully transparent to the CFAO.
That was my understanding.
So can you explain, was this fully transparent to you? Did you see both sets of books or only one set of books that had general matters?
Initially, when I started, finance was just getting the one side, the summarized billing. Initially, once we started with the state auditors, we realized that, and again, that was just a few months after I had started, that finance was not getting the full thing. So I had requested from the firm to make sure that finance was getting them just from an audit perspective. So we would have that.
What month would you say that was?
Commissioner Roy, the floor is yours.
Yeah, what month would you say you started getting the detailed bills?
I'm not positive. I would have to double check.
Yeah.
It probably,
Summer,
no, earlier than that, maybe March of this year.
March. Okay, so then I was not under the wrong assumption that you were getting general matters. Originally, you were getting general matters.
Originally, yes.
Yes, and then you were brought into this tight circle based on feedback from the auditor.
No, not necessarily. No, the auditors were requesting invoices, and when I had gone to finance, we did not have some of the detail there.
Yeah.
So then I requested.
You requested it. Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you so much.
All right. I think that we have covered this. Do you have some?
No, I just, somebody could answer the question. Why isn't it applied consistently?
I think, if I may, Madam Chair.
Please, thank you.
I think in the examples that you've sent me, which, again, you and I have worked through quite a few questions on this and spent time, and we've involved obviously the comptroller to make sure that everybody feels comfortable here, which is my intent. And where, I'm certainly uncomfortable with the idea that this is not transparent. The fact of the matter is, if something were requested from the detailed billing, it would be redacted. And so generally speaking, the way that I review it and the way that I have reviewed the sort of separate items that refer to the same dollar amount with a general matters bill or a detailed bill is that the things that would, if there would be a significant amount of redaction in a bill, it is simpler administratively to have a general matters bill rather than requiring us to redact all of the information that may be requested through PRR or for any other reason. And so from an administrative standpoint, again, reviewing this is the difference between, from a transparency perspective, is nil. where general matters or a redacted bill is the same outcome. And I think, the other question that you and I have reviewed previously is where a bill simply states the name of the employee. That is the general approach, and therefore it is generally not redacted when it's simply a name, unless there's additional information that goes.
So then why isn't everything general matters?
Because again, when a bill comes across as related to answering a question for a specific employee, listing simply that the question was related to the employee, meets the needs of what we have to have on file, but doesn't require us to redact on that bill, and therefore it doesn't need to be a general matters. It can be simply a name, which I think is the examples that Commissioner Roy and I have reviewed for the most part.
But do we allow our outside counsel, or do we tell have we told our outside counsel to submit bills as general matters? Was anyone ever directed? Did anyone ever direct our general counsel to specifically use general matters versus a level of billing that had specificity and transparency?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would be happy to look back. I think it would be for the tenures of the three people you have in front of you. I think the one question that was posed to me that I did look into with the CFAO was whether this practice was changed in 2023. Certainly general matters dates back to 2021, which the CFAO pulled previous bills for. So I'd have to go back quite a ways in order to answer that question, but I'm happy to do that.
I'd love to see almost an audit of from 2021 through 2025, what the percentage of bills that were stated in the non-transparent fashion of general matters, because that will help us to determine whether or not we made some decisions to not be transparent. So Commissioner Roy, do you have any other?
Yeah, I mean, this is about learning from the past. Like, why did we blow through 100,000 up to 300,000? Just as I've done in other areas as treasurer, right? The internal controls, we worked really hard to tighten those up. So like I've singled out a lot of areas. So I don't, please, like this is one of many areas that I have singled out as treasurer. When I first started as treasurer, I came to my realization that SOPs weren't being followed or reconciliation, and we had issues with collecting prorated fees. I mean, there have been other areas that I have focused on, and now this is just one of many. And looking at SOPs and trying to understand what our CPO versus our GC authorizes, and then reading in the comptrollers, the handbook provided in the email. So in order for the GC or anyone to approve, they have to have a certain recognition in the system. And so want to make sure that everybody has that, make sure that our GC has that to protect him, right? To make sure he has that, what he needs, that designation. You have to have a certain designation to even approve. You have it, Debbie has it. So I'm just looking at, making sure we dot our I's, cross our T's. If it feels uncomfortable, I don't mean it to be, but it's a necessary conversation, because this is, as you see, we can't fund our social equity program to its fullest extent. We have a hiring freeze. We really have to look at all of our resources. So, and I would be curious if you could share the SOP, make sure everybody has that designation so we know that we're doing it properly. And I am still in the midst of communicating with the comptroller's office to get that final, understanding of everything. But I thank you if you could provide that. That would be
and thank you. And then just noting that it's clear that the CFAO, who's the person who's making sure that all of our dollars and cents are tracked, did not have full transparency on this until additional questions were raised. So General Counsel, if you have a final comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to respond to Commissioner Roy's point about the proper coding with respect to the comptroller's office. Yeah. I believe they have responded in the affirmative that the coding was done properly, but maybe I'm missing part of that conversation.
Commissioner Roy.
Yeah, and yes, that's accurate, but it was HH, I believe, but that's not what I was asking. I want to make sure you have the proper designation, because you're approving the non-collective bargaining. So I want to make sure you have that. Even if you don't go into Mars, you still need that designation to prove.
So I think that the bottom line is the coding can be correct, but the opacity is not. And that is one of the things that I've said from the last couple of weeks. We're going to follow the laws, we're going to follow the statute, and we are going to be accountable, and we're going to be transparent. Again, I'm going to turn it over to the executive director. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to the executive director for his final comments, and then we'll move on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I think generally that is where I'm sitting on this, having answered quite a few questions, worked with the CFAO, GC, and the Commission's treasurer. I believe all the questions have been answered, and I believe that this is the right process. And so where the treasurer just mentioned kind of the internal control process, that is what this sits within. What we're following right now is an internal control. It's an example of that. And, you know, certainly the individuals who are authorized to sign off are the ones who are within that circle that I mentioned. They're the ones who are certifying with the comptroller's office on a regular basis. And so your request for the SOPs is acknowledged, and I can follow up on that. There was another note I need to make sure I go back and check in on referring back. But again, from a process standpoint, I'm happy to kind of clarify the process here, because to me, the process is sound. It's an internal control. And, you know, I think I want to make sure that the treasurer is certainly comfortable, and yet I believe that the questions have been answered.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner
You
Ryan.
mostly have, and thank you. And I appreciate, you know, you're going back and forth with me to engage this, because I think it makes us better at the end of the day. But you know, again, who decides when the opaque veil is placed? Because when I go back and I read the invoices and the emails, it was the former acting general counsel that's why I thought it was 2023, because there was a request acknowledged by Morgan, Brown and Joy. And so does Morgan, could you clarify that? Yeah, so reading the emails, the finance had requested, I have an email that says we requested them have the second set of, but like we made the request. So if we made the request, okay, but then who decides to place the opaque veil on the invoice? Because a lot of them don't have it. Like, who is it? Was it Morgan, Brown and Joy? Was it the outside labor council decided when to put that veil? Or did we tell them, put the opaque veil of general matters on this one, and why that one? And so I'm looking for, you know, accountability, transparency, consistency, and confidentiality. So we're trying to just balance all of these things, and you know, in our look at our internal controls. So, and I've done this in so many other areas. So, you know, it's not like I'm, you know, this isn't my hill to die on. It's just, I've done this in so many areas, and this is just another one where I think I've helped make the agency better by identifying, you know, things in internal controls.
I think that, okay, go ahead. And I think you should have the final comment, and then we'll move
Yeah.
on, but thank
So
you.
if you could provide that context, I'm happy to look into that. Again,
Okay.
You had just posed 2023. So, you know, CFAO and I did go back to make sure
Yeah.
that was a pivot point. It did
Yeah.
not appear to be.
Okay,
But if you want to provide any
Yeah.
context, I'm happy to look at that.
that's great. Thank you. And I appreciate
Yes.
it's just like, it's okay. It's healthy to have dialogue to, you know, tighten up our internal controls, and maybe everything's perfect, but it's, you know, I don't think it is, but you know, it's okay to have spirited debate, and it's important to do so. So thank you. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, and I'll give myself the last comment. Just as we have a heightened ethics standard, we should have a heightened transparency standard, because of many of the concerns that we've seen over the course of the last several years, where people believe that we do not share when we're not doing things correctly. For instance, as Commissioner Roy raised, when she had specifically asked the former executive director and said, in August of 2022, if we give the executive director additional authority to extend licenses that are non-compliant, are we going to be collecting fees on a monthly basis? And the answer was yes. And it took Commissioner Roy working, I don't know if the current CFAO was there when we were able to determine that that policy had not been found. And in fact, we had not been appropriately collecting those prorated fees for quite some time. And the SOP was there, and it had not been followed. So it's incumbent upon us. We vote on the budget. We are held accountable to the taxpayers and the stakeholders here. And we are now worried about our functioning, because we don't have enough money right now. We don't have enough money to fix our IT. We don't have enough money to run our robust social equity program. So it's up to us to make sure that when we vote on a budget, that we are tracking the dollars. So again, we'll move on. Okay, one last point, sure.
Just wanted to add the context
Yeah,
for us moving forward. The chair and the treasurer both had a Q1 update from the CFAO. And I was there as well, and that we are looking very good on our employment.
We are,
So
yes.
Q1.
Yes, we are.
That context, so.
Yes, we are. And actually kudos to both of
Yes.
you. We're on it.
Can you
We're
repeat that? Clarify why you're congratulating.
I think we've
Executive
only
Director
spent
and the CFAO.
$1,800 right now. Is that right? Around that? So that is, thank you. That is a wonderful note to leave it on. We've only spent a little over $1,800. I know we're monitoring it very closely. And we have, even the auditor said, we're a little too reliant, I think, on, outside counsel. And so great job. And I think we got it in a good place as far as that goes right now. So I appreciate, that's a really good note.
And again, I echo,
Mhm.
we have the auditor's report, and that is my getting back up to speed, is making sure that we look at the IG, the auditor, and make sure that we're doing those internal control and compliance issues. So thank you. Robust conversation. I know sometimes it can get a little bit conspirated, but I thank everybody for the information. Thank you, Lisa, and I put you on the hot spot here, so thank you.
Thank you.
The intervention protocol discussion, Commissioner Roy, you had raised this earlier, and you had given us some history about what the process is that we followed in terms of intervention protocol, because this is one, it's making sure that we stay focused on our mission, stay focused on supporting social equity, the stakeholders, the businesses, and making sure that we're keeping the public healthy and safe, and that they're getting products that are properly tested and regulated. So making sure that we do that, and that has an impact on how we use our legal budget. So you had some questions earlier about how do we make a determination about intervention, and I think it begs the question about how we, as a commission, we have talked about taking back some of the delegations, and the prior iteration or the original iteration of the board of the commissioners had delegated, I think it's 77 individual items of authority that they granted to the executive director. I actually remember having a conversation with Commissioner Concepcion in the spring of 2023, and she was considering putting on the agenda taking back a number of those delegations to make sure that the commission, the board members, are both accountable for and have more transparent opportunity to review the work that's happening with the commission. So I know that Commissioner Roy had raised the case earlier, and maybe she can repeat what she was talking about, but it's, once again, it's transparency and it's consistency. When we're overspending on our outside legal budget, we need to make sure that we understand before the fact how we're making those decisions, who has the authority to do it, and how we're paying the bills for that. So Commissioner Roy, I know that you had raised some issues.
Yeah, just for a little historical context, when our legal team had filed the motion to intervene in the theory wellness, I read it in news clips. So in all honesty, I was a little surprised because that's how I was informed of it, through news clips. And then we had a meeting. It was Commissioner Stebbins, myself, General Counsel, I think ED, you might have been present, and say, how can we inform commissioners a little more real time? We put our collective heads together, and then the commissioners voted at the January 23rd, 2025 meeting to grant the general counsel the ability to intervene in a lawsuit between licensees and host communities over HCA's. The state attorney general is a partner in the intervention, granted commission permission to intervene. The commission filed to intervene in the theory wellness et al. Versus the town of Great Barrington, but the parties settled before the commission could state its case in the matter. The GC provided this update to the commission at the August 14th meeting, also notifying commissioners this office would continue to look for cases to intervene, seeking a court order affirming the commission's authority to review host community agreements upon renewal. And so we granted you that limited authority to file motions to intervene on host community agreements in conjunction with the executive director and the attorney general's office. And then that was your limited authority. And then in May of 2025, you filed a motion to intervene, and I don't know who approved that, but it wasn't the board. So I'm a little confused there. So I guess why it's on today, I'll defer to the chair, but do you want to rescind that or have it come back to us before each filing? I don't know, but
I would suggest that unless there is an emergency, a public health emergency, and it's my understanding that former General Counsel Bailey, there was a licensee that was a cultivator and basically walked out of town, took all the product. I think there was some emergency there to get access to the building and to discover. So there was an immediate need for the commission to do that. But I believe that we need to establish a policy. Again, understanding that we were $200,000 over our legal budget, $200,000 that did not go to pay for robust social equity program. I think that we need to establish a protocol so that before the general counsel is involved in any sort of external litigation or litigation affiliated with the commission, that the general counsel is required to seek approval by the commission. And I would entertain any conversations that Commissioner Stebbins, I don't know if you have any thoughts about that, but this would be something that I would like to, if we have to, again, I don't have a motion drafted right now, but I think that it is important policy, one, to make sure that as commissioners, when we approve a budget, we keep to our budget. Two, we understand that we are maintaining focus on our absolute mission for the commission. So I think that this is appropriate. We have done it in the past. As Commissioner Roy stated, there was one intervention that she did not know about until she read it in the press. We recall other instances where there were the issue of True Leaf, where we literally had a fatality take place in Holyoke, and we were not only not informed, that information was hidden from us. So I want to make sure that as a commission, we have greater transparency, we have greater accountability. So I don't know if anyone has any concerns or questions, but I'll go to Commissioner Stebbins first, because I asked him for his input if he thinks that ensuring that the commission, except in an emergency situation, public health, public safety, that the commission vote to approve any legal intervention. Just be careful about open meeting, any legal intervention on the part of our general counsel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for clarity, are we talking about cases where we have we attempted to legally intervene in a case about HCAs, or are we thinking, is your consideration broader than that? I'm needing more clarity.
Commissioner Roy, go ahead.
Yeah, my original understanding was the scope of the delegation was limited to HCAs. And anything outside of that scope needed to come back in front of the board. So the May 29th, 2025 motion to intervene did not come back before the board. And I rewatched the meeting in January 23rd, and I had requested that the legal team, look at incorporating an equitable relief, licensees' ability to appeal to the commission to file a motion to intervene. And I don't think we ever got anything back. So I'd almost like to see that in regulation, in equitable relief, that licensees, right, could apply to the commission and say, we'd love you to file a motion to intervene because you are the subject matter experts. So I don't know if you guys remember, I raised that in January. That's true. But I did rewatch that today. So the scope was HCA. So if you want to keep that, I think that was your question, right? The scope was.
That's my question.
Yeah.
And again, that's where she raised the point where she said it was very targeted, and that we need to limit that. Again, there are situations where we provide the general counsel with the opportunity to do that, but it appears that policy was not followed.
If I may.
Commissioner Roy, and then Commissioner Stebbins.
Yeah, and also I want to acknowledge you received the designation for a special assistant attorney general. And I don't know if you had it before, but you have it now, right? So that would allow you the ability, right, to go in and still continue to work with the attorney general's office. But I wanted to recognize that designation as well.
Yes, if I may.
Okay, general counsel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to address a couple of timing issues and to make sure that we're level set here. So there was the 30 wellness intervention, and we'd have the discussion about that back, I think, in January, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
That was there was language granted at that meeting for me to work to intervene in conjunction with the AG's office. As you'll recall, at the time when we had acting executive director, there was a vote to delegate legal matters under the supervision of the general counsel. And so at the time I was operating under that delegation. And with respect to, and then obviously that led into a more fulsome discussion in January. I do recall, Commissioner Roy, you raising the issue of not having been informed of the intervention. And I did indicate to you at that time that that was certainly not the intent, but I was operating under the delegation given to the general counsel at the time. We did agree to, provide updates going forward. And then that led into the broader delegation motion that was voted on and approved at the August meeting. I do want to just address this suggestion that I went somehow outside of the scope of my delegated authority in connection with my representation of the commission in connection with the lawsuit between the treasurer and the chair. And to that, what I will say is that there was an issue presented under the Fair Information Practices Act, which is Chapter 66A, that required the commission to respond. The commission is the agency that had information relevant to that was part of under that chapter. And so the commission had to get involved in the case at that time. At that time, the Attorney General was already representing the treasurer, and so the Attorney General could not also represent us. And so given the fact that the commission had to respond, I had made the decision at that time. The options were either to engage external counsel or to do it myself.
If I can, I think that the issue is not the facts of any individual case. It's the process that
And I'm trying to get to that.
the commissioner,
I'm trying
commissioners
to
to be able to make that approval. So again, that is, I think, what we're talking about here. I may want to consider this, take a little bit more time to consider this, to have you come up with a motion that we can approve in the future that clarifies and takes back the authority. Again, I wasn't here when all these things happened.
Yeah,
And
if I
so
may-
it's just, again, if we can create a policy that clarifies what I think should be the authority of the commissioners. I would have not been able to vote on this. This is nothing I could vote on. So, but my fellow commissioners would have been able to do that. So it's making sure that we have that authority, that in the future commissioners retain that authority when it comes to our legal budget. How do we do that? Is it transparent? Is it within the mission of the commission? So anyway,
I'd like to just finish the thought that I was trying to get out before you interrupted me.
Again, I'll reclaim the floor and I'll ask the executive director to go on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to reference, I think, where the general counsel was going, which was that delegated authority that went to chiefs of departments during the acting executive director period. Sunset with my arrival on March 3rd, 2025. With the assistance of the general counsel, I sent out a memo to everyone essentially notifying that authority has sunset with the executive director coming on board based on a prior approval from commissioners to delegate authority to individual chiefs. So with that, I think with the timeline, there were decisions in January that were made under the delegated authority. By March, that delegated authority had sunset. By August, when we had a discussion, and I can read the motion, which I think is what we're coming back to on the HCA specifically, that motion was necessary to provide the general counsel the latitude to work with the AGO, the ED, and then report back to the board should a case present itself. Would you like me to read that motion for context?
Yes, please. Yeah, thank you.
So this is the motion from the August 14, 2025 meeting. Commissioner Roy moved to direct the GC in consultation with the general counsel, in consultation with the executive director and the attorney general's office, to take all steps necessary to identify and intervene in court cases involving licensees and municipalities which present issues relating to the commission's statutory authority and oversight over HCAs and community impact fees, otherwise known as CIFs, and provide timely updates to the commissioners. That was the motion from August.
Okay, Commissioner Roy?
Yeah, so back to the timeline then. Executive Director, you started March of 2025.
March 3rd.
Yes, and so this, which I voted no on that. I didn't think it comported with statute when they stripped the executive director of her authority as AED. And I voiced vociferously my objection to that, which was done in May of 2024. So that delegation was done. Again, I voted no, May of 2024. You arrived in March of 2025. So knowing that the scope of interventions was HCA related granted by the board, and that delegation no longer rested with the general counsel to oversee, I'm confused then who authorized the May 2025 motion to intervene?
Madam Chair, if I
Please, thank you.
believe that question is better answered by the general counsel.
Can I say, I almost would like to move on
Okay.
from this right now, because I would like to have a conversation, with the executive director about how we formulate a motion going forward that satisfies the ability of the commissioners to make sure that we are overseeing the budget, that the ultimate authority for intervening, whether it is out in Hampshire County where someone absconds with products, whether it is something that we determine we want to intervene in a host community agreement. Obviously, we have clarified that, but I think that it is good policy, once again, to retain that authority to the commission when it comes to expending monies from our budget to make sure that it's consistent with our mission. Again, that's what this, so it's allowing us to move forward. I would like us to move forward with clarity, with transparency, with ensuring that we are protecting taxpayer money and making sure we are meeting the mission, promoting social equity, public health and safety. So with that, Commissioner Roy, if you want to.
Yeah, and I just, I'll make a request again, if we could get perhaps a legal opinion on if we could incorporate into equitable relief where licensees could appeal to the commission to have our general counsel file a motion to intervene as an option for licensees. So just wanted to throw, I mean, the effort is noble, right? You want a subject matter expert on host community agreements, whether we have the authority to review, certify, and improve on renewal. So I think we all agree with that. It's just process. It's just more process and transparency, and keeping the board apprised of when these things happen. Thank you.
So thank you. I think we've exhausted the conversation. And is there any new business not anticipated at time of posting that we need to address? The answer is no. The next meeting date, and we can put that up on the screen, is October 23rd at 2025. It will be an in-person meeting that includes hybrid at 10 o'clock on October 2025. And again, I've already raised one issue to satisfy the opportunity for Commissioner Stebbins to review the Donahue report. That will be the first thing that we put on the agenda. I think that we have exhausted this and I think we're good. So now we will be moving into executive session pursuant to general law, chapter 38, section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation, because the open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body. I seek a motion to enter executive session. Commissioner Stebbins.
So moved.
Commissioner Roy.
Second.
Having been moved and seconded, I'll take a call of the roll. Chair votes aye. Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Okay, let the record show the motion was approved unanimously. We will transition into executive session. And for the record, the individuals participating in the session will be the three commissioners: Executive Director Travis Ahern, General Counsel Kajal Chattopadhyay, Deputy General Counsel Michael Baker, Paralegal Ivania Coriolis Solis, and Assistant Counsel Stephen Ludzinski. As a reminder, the commission will not reconvene in open session. Meeting is adjourned.